Bloomberg signing into law today, raising the minimum wage to buy cigarettes in New York City to 21. This will take effect in 6 months. The goal here, as you can probably figure out, is to curb youth smoking. That'll cut long-term public health care costs. And the complaints from some, hey, if you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to fight and die for your country, you're old enough here to register for the draft, serve on a jury, shouldn't you be old enough to buy a pack of smokes? And Dominic, I'll start with you, and I guess from the health perspective here, are you with the mayor, or do you think he overstepped his bounds?
I'm 1,000% with Bloomberg on this. I've said this point after point when we do this show. When I leave here tonight, I'm going to go home and take an insulin shot, take diabetic pills, and high blood pressure pills.
Seriously?
Seriously, okay. No joke, every day for the rest of my natural life. This is the routine. Because I'm several diseases or health issues in the black community, but it impacts everyone, diabetic, high blood pressure. And so anything that's gonna save lives, I'm down with. And we can make fun of Bloomberg, nanny state, so on, but I didn't know his perspective until I traveled with him to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, in which is Bloomberg this, Bloomberg that.
He's giving like $1 billion, I think.
The entire campus. Yeah. But when you understand, he takes public health initiatives extremely serious.
So you'd be okay if we raised the legal age before you can go to KFC to 21 or go to McDonald's at 21? I mean, if you're talking whatever it takes to stay healthy is what you said.
Well, let me put. I don't mean to personalize this, but let me put it to you this way: my doctors tell me that there's nothing that I can eat, and I do it all every day, but in KFC, McDonald's, or Burger King, absolutely nothing.
No, I understand. Well, I'm just
the high salt, sugar, and so on.
I'm just testing the argument that you made, because you said said whatever it takes. So why not have an age requirement before you go for fast food?
Yeah, but that's a little different. I mean, we already have an age requirement on cigarettes.
So you're retracting whatever it takes. You're trying to make sure you're being reasonable about it.
Right. Yeah. I just think his heart is in the right place. I really do.
So I voted to increase in Connecticut, when it was the State House, the drinking age to 21. But I didn't do it to save the driver's life.
You mean the driving age?
The driving age. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You can't buy liquor in.
Oh, so it was the alcohol age.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. Get back on message.
Yes.
Increase the drinking age to 21. I did it to save lives, not necessarily that individual's life, but if they're out on the road, they're foolish with their drinking, more so than grown-ups. But I can't make that same argument for cigarettes.
Why?
They're going to hurt their life, but they're not going to hurt someone else's life, and they are 18.
So the consequences to be others. But if I want to extrapolate it, I could say we as a society have to pay the price for smokers in terms of healthcare costs.
But see, there's so many ways that you can, that's a good argument, but there's so many ways that you can save people's lives that I wouldn't do. You could have the speed limit at 45. You don't go higher than 45. When someone says, if it saves a life, pass a law, no, you just can't do that.
But how do I get past the issue, which is, wait a minute, my kid can go in the military and can and does. We see, you ever look in the paper and look at the kids, and I know you've gone to some of these military, these kids are 18, 19 years old and they die. And we're going to turn around and say, yeah, but you can't buy a pack of cigarettes till you're 21, and you can't buy a drink here legally till you're 21 either.
You could let them do both on a military base, so that if they're serving in the military, they actually have that opportunity. I'm really torn on this one. First of all, I think the bigger concern is underage smoking. It's younger than 18. So if you really want to crack down on that, crack down on the advertising that so clearly appeals on so many levels to younger smokers. Tobacco companies know, and we've seen memos from inside tobacco companies, that, you're not getting a 45-year-old person to start smoking. You're getting a 16-year-old person to start smoking. So they really do try to, without having their fingerprints all over it, lure in teenagers and young smokers. The libertarian in me says, you're an adult at 18, you should be able to have the choice. But I understand the public health cost. Conversely to what the congressman said, I actually think the drinking age should be 18, because I think it would teach more responsibility. We need more personal responsibility when it comes to these vices and how people handle them, rather than just keeping them forbidden. And I think when you keep them forbidden,
why are you making a distinction with alcohol and cigarettes then?
Because those are the two things, the most common things that we seem to have age limits.
You're saying they should be the same for both?
I don't know. I don't know. there's a part of me that wants to keep it at 18 for cigarettes, and part of me wants it at 21.
So which bigger part? What goes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I told you I was torn. I'm divided. I vote present.
All right. This next one we're going to have a debate on, too. One-way governors across the state, red, blue, Republican, Democrat, conservative, Democrat, doesn't matter. One way they try to up the revenues in their states here is to try and get people and businesses to come from other places, including other states. But these days, this seems to be happening a lot more often and more publicly. This isn't just in the back rooms anymore, Andrew. People are doing full-out campaigns to say, come to my state.
And these are very recent examples, Rich, and it's not subtle, as you mentioned. We got from Chris Christie last night, hey, New Yorkers, move to New Jersey, and he said New York is moving in the wrong direction. You see taxes being increased there. You have a new mayor in New York who's aggressively talking about increasing taxes in New York City. Well, I feel bad for New Yorkers. Come to New Jersey. And as I remind you that Bill de Blasio hasn't even taken office yet in New York. He's also the target of a TV ad from a Republican who wants to be the next governor of Connecticut in an ad that's not even airing in Connecticut.
Hey, New York City. With your new mayor, I know many of you are thinking about leaving. Connecticut, with the same progressive policies you're about to see in your city, may not be first on your mind.
It's Tom Foley, who wants to be governor next year, sort of reminiscent of Rick Perry's tour last year to states like New York and Colorado, all with Democratic governors, when he tried to lure businesses back to Texas with their low tax rates, which prompted this classic reply from California Governor Jerry Brown.
Hey guys, you take a little radio ad and all you guys run like lapdogs to report it. It's nowhere. It's not a burp. It's barely a fart.
So
What did he say? I couldn't make it out.
Why are you coming to me with this whole thing? It's not even a burp. It's barely even a fart, is what he said. But
God, I asked. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, you asked.
Yeah.
But even the last time you were here, Congressman, when we were talking about Wall Street and Bill de Blasio, you said, come to Connecticut. We'd love to have you in Connecticut.
You know what? You got to put some restraint on foolish politicians. And if they don't realize you're in competition, you can't repeal the law of gravity. You can't repeal it. If you tax wealth, it flees. If you tax jobs, they don't grow.
Okay, but I got a converse one for you. In Connecticut, the state legislature, post-Newtown, passed new regulations, gun control regulations.
Right,
My personal thing is I hardly thought they were too onerous.
right.
North Carolina came up and said, hey, gun shops, gun distributors, gun manufacturers, come bring your business
Well, I think,
down
I think they had every right to do that.
To me,
No,
that
what's
felt
the point?
a
So
little
they're-
ghoulish here. That in the aftermath of that, these guys are
I don't
trying
think it's
to
ghoulish.
get the gun makers to come move down south here because, God forbid, Connecticut wants to have some transparency or registration as it relates to the guys making guns.
Yeah.
It felt ghoulish to me.
Well, it's the real world. The real world is we're in competition. And you have Detroit because it got so off the beaten path that it couldn't compete with the rest of the country. Detroit has only itself to blame.
I'm sorry, Andrew, but didn't it used to be that we were going to be trying to attract jobs from other countries, that we weren't trying to attract jobs or cannibalize ourselves as Americans?
I don't think there was this big distinction that exists now. I think that, as a country, the states pretty much had all the same laws. What's happened is some states have taxed. They've just grown their taxes. They've put regulation after regulation on businesses that are sometimes really foolish.
But wouldn't those taxes and regulations do the trick itself, as opposed to these publicity tours with come to Texas? It seems like it's happening a lot more publicly, a lot more nakedly than it has in the past.
Well, all I know is the governor of Florida told one of our political people that every morning that he goes to work, there's a list of companies to call. And he said, basically, Connecticut is a candy store of opportunity.
And I'll give credit to the former, most recent governor in Connecticut. She was far more proactive than her New York counterparts. In fact, I know that where we sit right here in this county, she reached out to the Starwoods and she reached out to other companies in New York, and as a governor, not even a county executive, went and did the hand-to-hand retail politics, gave all the benefits of coming, and they went across the state lines here and went over to Connecticut when New York wouldn't lift a finger to even try and keep their own. So I got that. That one made sense to me. But it just doesn't seem, at least, as healthy to say, all right, 50 states have at it with each other. The net consequence is you're going to give tax abatements to anybody if you follow the logic, and then you're going to reduce the tax bases for both states here, and then they're not going to have money to pay for other stuff.
By the way, Tom's Foley ads may be in New York, but they're watched by people in Fairfield County that he wants their support. So,
surprising approach, by the way, a year out from the gubernatorial election in Connecticut. I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those differences between individual states and the health of individual states and the national health overall. And it's reminiscent to me of Walmart and some of the stuff that Walmart will do when they'll go to a community and say, we want not to pay taxes for 5 years. We want you to put up the water. We want you to put up the power for us to build this new super Walmart here. And if you don't build it here, I'm going to cross the municipal line and build it next door. And so, the businesses get the better deals, but the governments don't, and I'm not sure the people do.
It's the real world, and there's enough legislatures and enough county execs, or wherever they are, is going to say, if he won't do it, I will.
I'm grateful that you have this restraint. Otherwise, I think you'd see New York and Connecticut and New Jersey just go off the charts. This is what kind of tempers their over-obsessive desire to regulate and to tax.
We weren't sure if you liked it. You do like it. All right. Congressman, thank you very much. Dominic as well. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're talking anniversaries, including the anniversary coming up this Friday as it relates to JFK. Well, there's another anniversary, 150 years since the first reading of the Gettysburg Address, and Andrew's got a very interesting rendition of it right after this.